Aori was a normal high schooler living in modern-day Japan, where he spent his life in peace with his younger sister. But everything changes when his sister gets a chronically deadly disease with no cure known to man. The cost of treatment is so high that Aori couldn't even dream about paying the fee with a normal part-time job, so instead he turns towards the world of social media in the hopes of getting a quick buck. Unfortunately, he is not a mediocre-looking girl with an attitude problem who can post some thirst traps and start earning millions, so he was forced to find a new niche for himself. He decides to become a hated YouTuber who everyone watched because they hated him so much and wanted him to pay for everything that he has done till now. His social media presence started growing as he would call out professional respected fighters and then jump them on camera, beating the shit out of them without any respect, and spit on them before running away like a coward. This really irritated the viewers, who used to call him a coward piece of crap who can't win a fair fight. But Aori didn't really care for it, as it simply used to increase his viewer retention and other analytics. Most recently, he jumped a very beloved MMA content creator and beat the crap out of him with deceit before running away from the police. This has been the talk of the town as he overhears everyone talking about how this piece of shit Jake Paul-esque YouTuber needs to get his ass whooped. Aori doesn't care though, and simply goes through his comments and finds a burning hatred for himself in his own comments section. But it doesn't matter as he laughs and checks his revenue, which is through the roof at this point. Soon he gets off at the next station and enters the hospital where his sister has been admitted for a while now. He finds her staring at her phone, so he tells her to lay down and rest for a while. Akari responds by saying that she was resting the whole day and now she wants to talk to him and asks where he was. He can't really tell her about his money-making scheme, so he lies that he had some things that he needed to deal with and he was a little busy with that. He hands her a bag of sweets, but Akari knows that he has a weak spot when it comes to sweets and asks how many has he had today. At first Aori lies and replies that he had 3. But Akari is not so easily fooled and tells him to reveal the truth, and Aori replies that he had 6 cakes before coming here. Akari scolds him, claiming that he needs to be more careful with his health and should limit himself to 1 sweet a day, and starts asking whether he is ever taking care of himself, or he is pulling all-nighters again and not doing any laundry. Soon she starts eating her piece of cake, but even that is too much for her and she starts coughing, which scares Aori and he runs to call the nurse. But Akari stops him, claiming that she is going to be okay. Akari doesn't know why her body is refusing to work with her, but Aori tells him not to lose any hope as their trip to us is in a month, and there a super doctor will have a look at her and deal with any issues she has. Akari is not sure though, as she has heard about the medical bills in the US for a band-aid, but her brother tells her not to worry as he has everything under his control and money won't be an issue thanks to his well-paying side gig. Later that day, he thinks about the days at the orphanage when the old warden used to teach all the orphans there to always do the right thing no matter how difficult it may be. But Aori has gone completely against it. If there was a way to earn good money with hard work, he would do that. But unfortunately, he never had the opportunity to attend a good school, and the only thing he has is a tough body which is good at fights. He thinks about how he has gone against everything he was taught at the orphanage, but he doesn't really care as he is ready to burn the entire world if it means that he can save Akari. A month passes by since that day and Aori had been completely inactive on his social media account, and word on the street is that either he got killed by an angry mobster or he has completely retired. Aori, however, is not dead and is doing well in his one-room apartment, eating pudding cups from a general store and talking to Akari on his phone, asking whether she would want some. Akari replies that she would love to have some chocolate pudding, so Aori promises to bring some when he comes to visit her again. He seems content with his life and soon heads off to sleep with the phone in his hand, which I can relate to. Later in the night, while he was having some pleasant dreams, he is suddenly woken up by a sudden noise and is horrified to see a figure looming on top of him with a goddamn sledgehammer. The intruder tries to slam the hammer on top of him, but thanks to his quick reflexes, he manages to dodge out of the way. The intruder calls him an asshole for dodging out of range, and follows up with 3 more attacks aiming for the phone in the hands of Aori. Again, Aori manages to dodge out of the way, saving his life with a hair's margin, but ends up dropping his phone at the last moment. This was the moment he realizes that this weirdo robber is not after him, but actually after his phone. Thankfully, he manages to grab his phone before the man could destroy it and starts running away outside the house. Aori decides to run into a well-lit park, hoping to throw off the attacker, and texts Akari about the intruder that just entered his house. Akari continues to text him, telling him to run away and go to the cops. But instead of running or calling the cops, this idiot is talking to his sister on his phone. Before he could do anything else, the intruder catches up to him once again and tries to attack him. But this time Aori decides to stand his ground and fight back. He blocks the hammer with a kick, which actually surprises the attacker, and then Aori goes on the counter-attack, which is blocked by the intruder easily. Aori continues his assault of punches and throws in a kick for good measure. But all his attacks either get dodged or get stopped by the hammer-wielding psychopath easily. The intruder tries to swat the phone out of Aori's hands once again and barely misses. Aori has no idea what the hell is he after. When the intruder calls out his full name, claiming that he is a YouTuber whose job is posting rage-bait content and trigger little girls and liberal leftists daily for absolutely no reason. He claims that he has watched his videos, but not voluntarily, and openly declares that his videos are disgusting and makes him want to puke up. Hearing this, Aori thinks that this man is one of those annoyed viewers who decided to take it upon himself to deal with him. So Aori goes on his knees and apologizes from the bottom of his heart, claiming that all he did was for money and no personal agenda since his sister was really sick. He claims that he has stopped doing all that since his sister got better and claims that he can beat him all he wants, but begs him not to kill him as he wants to help his sister more. He tells him to leave his phone untouched as he is texting his sister right now, who is pretty far away, and he doesn't want to lose touch with her. Before he could even complete his sentence though, the man attacks his phone once again with the hammer. Aori tells him to back off as he can beat him all he wants. But the man replies that he doesn't care about him and only wants to destroy the phone as quickly as possible. The intruder calms down a little, claiming that Aori sounds like an insane man right now since his sister has been dead for over a month now. Aori can't accept that reality and asks if she is dead, then who the hell is he texting with on his phone? It turns out that since America decided to attack Venezuela for absolutely no reason, her flight to America ended up getting cancelled and her health got worse in the next couple of days, leading to her death. Aori was unable to accept this reality and even missed his own sister's funeral before closing himself in his own house. He kept texting Akari on his phone, begging her to reply, when one day after he was stuffing himself with junk food, he saw the read sign appear on top of his message and got a reply from Akari. He wasn't able to believe his own eyes, but Akari seemed herself as she knew all the things that only she could have known. This made him believe that the person he was talking to was the real Akari, and he refused to believe or hear anyone saying otherwise. Suddenly his phone starts bugging out, and the video feed of Akari appears on his feed as she starts talking to him with tears running down her eyes, asking whether he was okay. Before he could reply though, the intruder manages to swat the phone away from him and slams it with his hammer, while Aori is too late to grab it safely. To his surprise though, the phone doesn't break, and suddenly a weird menacing energy starts coming out of the device as Akari materializes right in front of him through the phone. Aori can't believe his own eyes and drops down to his knees with tears streaming down his cheeks, but soon Akari's face twists and turns into a demonic mask with blood running down her eyes as she turns into a demonic being. The intruder immediately tells Aori to back off, claiming that she is not his sister anymore. He claims that the person he was talking to was a ghost. Earlier ghosts used to get trapped where people spent a lot of their time or had deep emotional connections like beaches, hospitals, toilets, music rooms, but now most of the people spend a majority of their time on their phones, and when they die, a dark part of their spirits gets stuck in their devices forever. When the social media account of a dead person, also known as a dead account, gains sentience, it starts being known as a ghost account, and that's what they are dealing with right now. He claims that now that her ghost has been summoned, he can't really destroy the phone and be done with it, which means he would have to destroy her ghost. But since this is a digitized ghost, the normal weapons won't really work on it, so they have to rely on special spiritual weapon. Just then he takes his phone out and summons a black hammer out of it, and starts beating the crap out of Akari's ghost. Aori is having a tough time watching all this, but soon the hammer guy manages to overpower the ghost and gets ready to finish it off. He throws his hammer in the sky and rains down a volley of hammers at the ghost, which completely destroy the ghost. With that, he finally gets ready to exorcise the ghost and takes out a new hammer to end it all. But Aori can't see it and grabs the guy from behind, begging him to let her live as he doesn't care even if she is a ghost. The hammer guy tells him to leave him and shouts at him that everyone in this world has people who die, but it's his job to move on and continue their legacy. This gives the ghost sufficient time to regain its composure, and it slams the hammer guy away into the wall, leaving him incapacitated and unable to move. The hammer guy tells Aori to run away, but instead Aori walks towards his sister and tries to reason with her. To his horror, the ghost is his sister only in the most twisted sense, as it grabs Aori in its teeth and starts chewing on him like a pack of gum. Aori thinks about the life he has lived till date and realizes that it's him that has kept Akari's spirit bounded to this world, and if he dies then her spirit will automatically be freed. But just then he remembers the hammer guy's words about continuing the legacy, and he jumps out of the grasp of the ghost and manages to materialize a weapon out of his phone, which shocks the hammer guy. Aori gets ready for the final combat and stabs his own sister with the blue flame sword that he had, which exorcises the ghost, leaving Aori unconscious on the ground. A little while later, some people from the academy where the hammer guy came from arrive to inspect everything and ask how the hell did Aori defeat her own sister's ghost. The hammer boy reports that Aori has a flame sword. Their leader claims that it's not a big deal to have that, but then the hammer guy reveals that his sword was actually blue. This actually shocks all of them, and the leader immediately tells them that they are taking Aori with them back to the Miden Academy, and whether he survives there and learns or die will depend on him. When Aori finally wakes up the next morning, he finds himself in a strange room which he assumes is a hotel. He doesn't clearly remember anything that happened last night and thinks that he had a bad dream where his sister died and turned into a ghost, and then a hammer guy popped out of nowhere, and finally he himself had to kill the ghost of his sister with his special powers. He takes a deep sigh that the nightmare was over. But the moment he turns around, he spots the hammer guy calmly drinking tea behind him. Aori immediately asks where the hell is he, and whether they slept in the same bed. The hammer guy replies that he doesn't swing that way. So Aori asks him about Akari, and whether everything that he remembers is the truth that happened yesterday and what happened to his dear sister. The hammer guy doesn't reply, which speaks volume, and simply hands over Aori's phone back to him, and he immediately searches up his sister, only to find that no account with that name exists anymore. The hammer guy informs him that dead accounts are the result when the social media account of a deceased person gets possessed by the ghost. So when the ghost is exorcised, the dead accounts disappear automatically. Aori is heartbroken and asks whether he will never be able to talk to his sister again. And the hammer guy replies that it's kind of a common knowledge that dead people can't talk. To his surprise, Aori takes the news suspiciously well, as he smiles, claiming that it's okay if his sister died since the illness was not leaving her anyways. He claims that he made a promise to his sister that he would look after himself, so he should better start doing that, as there is no point getting all weepy and sad about something that can't be changed. The hammer guy replies that it's very obvious that Aori is simply trying to put up a front, and he finally introduces himself as Cuckoo. He starts moving out of the room and tells Aori to follow him. They soon venture out, and Aori thinks that they are at a very pricey hotel. But Cuckoo replies that they are at the Miden Academy, which is a school for exorcists. Aori can't believe that this super fancy place is actually a school and claims that the room they were in looked just like the honeymoon suite of a hotel. But Cuckoo replies that it was his own room, as every student in the school live on the campus itself. He claims that the school was built intentionally to look like a hot springs hotel, to emphasize on the fact that the students of this school cleanse the world from evil. As he walks through the campus, a blondie walks past Cuckoo and makes fun of him for dropping the ball last night and almost getting killed. But Cuckoo ignores him and moves on. The blondie goes towards his friend group, where they start talking about the newest recruit and how he is a rage bait YouTuber. One of the people in the group claim that they hate the rage bait YouTubers more than anything, as they are just as annoying as Jake Paul himself. But the blue-haired girl in the group takes a liking to Aori, thinking that he looks pretty handsome. Cuckoo gives Aori a whole tour of the school, from the cafeteria to the shops, to the reception and even the hot springs. But Aori can't believe that this is a school and continues to think that this must be a prank and this is just a hotel. Once inside the hot spring, Aori realizes that his wounds seem to be healing up at a dramatic speed, and the soothing nature of the spring starts relaxing his body, which scares him, as he might start crying for his sister if he is not careful about it. He immediately starts splashing water in his face to get out of the relaxation mode, while Cuckoo wonders where the leader is. To their surprise, the leader, named Zaki, suddenly erupts from the water with his dong flailing around. He claims that he is a monk who is also a teacher here, and shakes Aori's hand. Once inside the room, they all get dressed apart from Zaki, who stretches his body out in a towel, while Cuckoo tells him that he has shown Aori around the campus just as he was ordered and whether he can leave now. Zaki tells Cuckoo not to take this as a chore and enjoy this, but Cuckoo claims that he feels like this is the punishment for dropping the ball last night because he hates all rage bait YouTubers as much as anyone. Zaki completely ignores him and turns towards Aori, asking whether he is ready to enroll in this school now and become an exorcist. Aori is a little stunned at first, but then starts laughing alongside Zaki, thinking that this is some sort of a prank, while Cuckoo asks whether Zaki is trying to rub salt to his wound. Zaki tells Cuckoo that he is inviting Aori in good faith since he awakened his powers last night and can be an asset to the school. Aori is a little confused about the powers, so Zaki explains that the exorcist profession goes back a millennia where the exorcists have been in a constant battle against the malevolent spirits. He claims that the exorcists employ special techniques for unleashing spiritual energy known as psychokinesis. But everything went through a major evolution after the introduction of the internet a couple decades ago, which turned the cyberspace into a breeding ground for these spirits and ghosts as they started materializing through social media, which sent the exorcists into a panic as the techniques that they developed over the hundreds of years were of no use against these so-called ghost accounts. While Zaki was explaining everything though, Aori decides that he doesn't really care and stretches out before leaving the room and checks on Google Maps to see where he is and whether there is any sightseeing locations he can visit before leaving back for his home. Zaki immediately stops him, asking why the hell is he running away, and whether he is not curious about his own abilities and what exactly happened yesterday. Aori replies that he seriously doesn't want to know anything, nor is he interested in getting involved with the ghosts and exorcists business. He claims that he simply wants to go back to his own life, get a normal day job, eat healthy every single day and sleep on time if possible. He is never even going to start back his YouTube channel, as the only reason he did all that rage baiting was only to get enough money so he could help his sister through her treatment. But she is no longer in his life anymore. He has no reason to actually revive his channel or ever show his face on any social media accounts ever again. He claims that he is completely empty inside and would like to spend some time alone by himself while drinking some good boba tea. With that, he starts moving out. But Zaki catches up to him and asks whether he is not curious about what actually happened to her sister, and who is responsible for her death. This immediately catches his attention, and he turns around to face Zaki, who smiles, claiming that his sister didn't die just because of her medical condition, which was stable for so many months at that point. He claims that his sister was murdered by a very powerful ghost account. Aori's face darkens as he remembers the plea of his sister, as she begged him to help on her deathbed when she wasn't able to breathe properly. Zaki claims that the ghost account that is responsible for the death of his sister always targets people who have very strong ties to this world. And whenever these victims die, they always shed tears of blood, just like his sister did when she passed away. Angrily, Aori asks where the hell is that thing right now, and Zaki asks what the hell will he do even if he knew. Aori replies that he is going to kill that ghost account in cold blood, but Zaki simply smiles, mocking him as he claims that he can't do shit since he is too weak. This angers Aori beyond any measure, and he throws a powerful right cross towards Zaki, which gets intercepted by Cuckoo at the last moment. Aori tells Cuckoo to get out of his way right this instant, as he is going to pummel this idiot monk teacher who thinks he knows all so much about him. Cuckoo replies that he is an idiot of a teacher, but he is still his teacher. Zaki tells them all to calm down and proposes that if Aori manages to defeat Cuckoo with his current power level, he will acknowledge Aori's strength and tell him everything he knows about the ghost account which was responsible for his sister's death. Cuckoo seems to be excited about this, as he has wanted to beat the crap out of a rage bait YouTuber, and immediately takes out his hammer from his phone with a smile. But Aori doesn't really seem to care and immediately goes after Zaki once again. But he manages to dodge out of the way and starts running, shouting at Aori to fight with Cuckoo, not him, while Aori chases him, claiming that he is not here for his bullshit games, as someone he cared about the most in this whole damn world was murdered. Before he could catch on to Zaki though, he gets slammed in the back by Cuckoo, who drops him to the floor and tells him to shut the hell up, as his little misfortune doesn't make him special, as this is a very common story in this academy. Cuckoo realizes that Aori would not fight against him so easy, so he decides to rage bait the rage baiter by claiming that slamming him with a hammer felt even better than slamming his sister last night. That was enough to get Aori riled up, who gets up on his feet and tells Zaki that he will get all the details from him once he beats the crap out of this hammer idiot. With that, Aori immediately rushes towards Cuckoo and tries to elbow him, but Cuckoo manages to block that with his hammer and pushes him back. This commotion attracts all the students walking through the area, and they stop by to watch the result of this fight. Aori immediately lunges in for another punch, but Cuckoo dodges it and the following straight that Aori throws at him. Kyo, the goth girl, claims that this feels like a K-drama where she is forced to watch a ragebaiter and a hammer idiot who thinks he is too cool. Hio, the puppet student, claims that it's not every day that they can see the rage bait YouTuber fight in real life. Ren is also impressed by Aori's abilities, as it is not everyone who could stand against Cuckoo in Brawl. Imo is the only person who wants to stop the fight, as it can't end up well. Back in the fight, Cuckoo hits Aori with another hammer slam, but Aori is not a bitch and manages to soak the damage with his block, but realizes that the strikes are very strong and one misstep can cost him the fight. Aori decides to take a step back and dodges to make some distance, but Cuckoo throws his hammer and hits Aori straight in the face. The commotion attracts the attention of other teachers as well, who start assembling, and even the principal herself arrives to see what the fuss is all about. One of the teachers tells the principal that they need to stop the fight at once and get Aori out of this academy, as his reports are not good from what he read. The principal tells him to shut his bitch ass up and watch. Cuckoo tells Aori that he is loving every moment of beating a ragebaiter up, and Aori again screams that he only did that to save his sister. Cuckoo is not convinced though and slams him in the face, claiming that there were other ways of earning money, and he just did that because it was easy and he enjoyed doing that. Aori stops defending himself and Cuckoo manages to pummel him again and again with his hammer before using one of his special moves, which converts his hammer into multiple copies and throws them all at Aori, knocking him down to the ground, helpless and beaten. Zaki appears on top of him and smiles, claiming that he is a scrappy fighter, but against Cuckoo with his powers, it's like bringing a fist in a gunfight. With that, he guides Aori to take out his phone and channel his magical energy to even out the playing field. Aori follows his instructions and takes out his phone, and immediately a blue flame erupts out, which shocks the crap out of every single observer, including the teachers. While Zaki claims that he almost didn't believe Cuckoo yesterday when he claimed a blue demon flame. Zaki reminds Cuckoo not to touch the flame, and Aori gets a little confused and wonders why everyone is acting so scared. Zaki tells Aori not to worry and simply try to use it. To everyone's surprise, Aori tries to use the flame on his feet, which gives him immense speed, but while running towards Cuckoo, he ends up tripping and falls flat on his face. Even Zaki is surprised, as Aori was too fast for even them to see him properly and could have ended the fight if he managed to control himself. Aori is not done yet though and rushes at Cuckoo once again, confusing him with speed, and almost connects a punch that leaves a streak of blood across Cuckoo's cheeks. This annoys Cuckoo, who starts swinging his hammer at Aori, who dodges everything, but just as he thinks he can beat Cuckoo, he gets completely outmatched, as an angry Cuckoo increases the size of his hammer because he is a grower not a shower, and almost blasts Aori into smithereens. Aori barely dodges, but Cuckoo launches another attack, which would have been the end of Aori, but Zaki jumps in between, and with the flick of his fan, he deflects the attack, telling Cuckoo that he went too far there. With that, he turns towards Aori and apologizes for getting him all riled up. But Aori apologizes right back and begs Zaki to take him into the academy so he can find his sister's killer. Zaki smiles after seeing the true tears of Aori coming out finally and accepts his formally into the Medan Academy. Soon after that, Zaki gives Aori what he wants. He shows him an old video of a team of exorcists going on a mission to erase a ghost from existence, and they freak out when they see a dead body lying in the corner. They spot a smartphone in front of him and a ghost comes out of it. The leader of the exorcists uses his phone to scan the ghost and find more details about it, and he learns that they have information about him in the database. However, the moment the information is available, the bald exorcist tells his team to run away instantly. Unfortunately, the ghost doesn't give them the chance to do that and instantly kills them with a blazing blue flame. Zaki tells Aori that this ghost account is called Sad Boy K, and they don't know who he was when he was a real person. However, the only thing they are sure of is that he is incredibly powerful and the #1 enemy of exorcists. But more importantly, he is the ghost account that killed Aori's sister. Aori is shocked to hear that, and even more when he realizes that the ghost uses the same blue flames as him. Zaki tells him that Sad Boy's ability is called the Demon Flame, and it is a cursed ability that steals the life force of anyone it touches. Aori sees the faces on the victims and the tears of blood coming out of their eyes, which is exactly what happened to Akari. He asks Zaki how can he have the same ability as the guy that killed his sister. Zaki says he has no idea about that either, and that only leads to more questions in Aori's mind. He He begins to grow nervous that he was using such a deadly ability against Cuckoo, and Zaki laughs, saying that it is a good thing that no one died. Aori then asks how does he stay safe when he is surrounded by the deadly flames, and Zaki asks if a snake ever died from its own poison. All this is too much for Aori to process, and he tells Zaki that he needs to go home and take a few days to cool down and internalize his new life. However, Cuckoo and others from Class 1B come there just then and tell him that there is no way in hell he is leaving now. Zaki introduces them to Aori as his students and asks everyone to get along well with their new classmate. But Cuckoo immediately starts poking him, saying that no one wants to be classmates with a guy whose flames could kill them easily, but they have to watch over him so that he doesn't turn into a villain. Cuckoo calls the entire situation a flaming pile of shit, but then a blonde guy named Ren pushes him to the side and introduces himself to Aori. He tells him not to mind Cuckoo too much, because he is actually a nice guy after you get to know him. After that, a talking doll named Hajime comes forward and tells Aori that Cuckoo is just mad because he landed a hit on him. Aori freaks out on seeing Annabelle's cousin, but she tells him that she live streams games and they should do a collab someday. Ren immediately tells Aori to get ready for a selfie, while the rest of his classmates watch the chaotic people living their lives. With that, Zaki tells Aori that he needs to pass one more test before he becomes a full-fledged exorcist. He takes him to the training room where a golden device is ready to measure his combat abilities. Zaki tells Aori that if he passes this test, he will be sent out on the field as an exorcist, and he will run into Sad Boy K sooner or later. Aori gets fired up at the idea of facing his sister's killer, and he tells Zaki to start the test. Zaki presses a button, and two pink jennies pop out of the golden lamp. Zaki tells Aori that they are artificial spirits used to train exorcists, and he needs to beat 100 of them if he wants to pass the test. He warns him not to underestimate the artificial spirits, but Aori is confident that he can beat any enemy. He pulls out his blue flame sword from his smartphone and makes quick work of the first spirit that attacks him. But Zaki ends the test with that. Aori asks him why he stopped, and he realizes the answer the very next moment. He starts feeling dizzy and loses his balance, and Zaki tells him to look at his phone's battery because that is synced with his spiritual power. The battery has reached 0, which means Aori has used up all his spiritual power, and now he is as useless as a dead phone. Aori collapses with that, and when he wakes up, he finds everyone having a fancy dinner in the traditional Japanese way. Zaki tells him that he was already tired after his fight with Cuckoo, and the test was just a setup to make him experience how it feels to run out of battery. Aori understands it now, but what confuses him is how it is dinner time already when he wasn't passed out for long. Zaki tells him that once his battery runs out, he will stay unconscious for about 5 hours, and during that time, he won't wake up no matter what. On the field, that will get him killed, and even if he survives, he will still drag his team down if he becomes a vegetable. Aori feels that he has too much to learn, but Zaki asks him not to get disappointed that he finished so quickly, because it just shows how powerful his ability is. Aori is still feeling dejected about that, and Zaki tells him to eat to regain his strength. He tells him that the big test is in a week, and he only gets one shot, so he should not fail, otherwise he will be captured and tortured. Aori is horrified at this, and Zaki says that a lot of people here think that he must be related to Sad Boy, who has killed countless exorcists, and they want revenge on him desperately. If Aori fails to become an exorcist, he will be labeled a danger and dealt with, so he should work hard and pass the test. With that, everyone goes to their rooms, and Aori asks Cuckoo where is his room. Cuckoo tells him not to be stupid, because they are not going to let a ticking bomb like him stay unsupervised. Aori is going to share a room with Cuckoo, who is not at all pleased to do that. But someone has got to take responsibility. Suddenly, Aori starts staring at him with a dissatisfied expression on his face, and Cuckoo thinks that he is just not happy to share the room with him. However, Aori bows before him and requests him to train him so that he can pass the test in a week. Cuckoo spits out his tea on hearing this and asks what kind of ragebaiter bows down like this to a guy who beat him. Aori tells him that he has no pride and he accepts that Cuckoo is much stronger than him, so he needs his help. Cuckoo is taken aback at his humility and tells him that he was going to train him either way because Zaki ordered him to do it. Earlier, when Aori passed out at the training hall, Zaki told Cuckoo that he would train him, and he was really against the idea because he hates ragebaiters from the bottom of his heart, while Loki being one. Zaki just told him that it would be the best thing not only for Aori but for Cuckoo too, and in the end, he accepted the order. Now, as they brush together like a couple that has just started living together, Cuckoo Loki hopes that Aori is a coward who gets afraid of the test and runs away. The next day, Aori challenges the pink Jennies again and he runs out of battery very rapidly. Cuckoo tells him that he is going full throttle from the beginning and tells him to restrain his power more. Aori has no idea how to do that, and Cuckoo tells him to imagine something like reducing the flame of a lighter or putting out a campfire. But if he can imagine something more unique and personal, it will work better. Aori can't do that, and in the end, he collapses after defeating 35 training spirits. The next day, Ren, Hajime, and the other blondie decide to see Aori's progress, and they are impressed that he can reach the 30s so easily despite just awakening 2 days ago. However, he collapses at 31, so he thinks of a unique idea the next day. He pumps himself full of caffeine so that he doesn't fall asleep. But even then, he can only beat 41 practice dummies. The next day, he becomes more efficient and beats 49 dummies, and even the goth baddie decides to see what he is up to. No matter what Aori does, he cannot even cross the halfway mark, and Cuckoo keeps telling him to imagine something that helps him control his power. Even by the end of the 6th day, Aori has made no progress, and he decides to distract himself from it by eating some stuffed buns. Cuckoo asks how can he be so carefree when the big test is tomorrow? Because Zaki was not lying when he said that the people here are going to torture and kill him if he fails. Cuckoo starts look-maxing as he tells Aori that he will be nothing but bones when people are done with him. And that reminds Aori of something. He says that he needs to go home immediately, and Cuckoo thinks that he is finally going to chicken out right before the main event. However, Aori is only concerned that he left his room's door open when Cuckoo attacked him, and Akari's pictures and remains are lying in the open. He feels that some pervert might try to steal them. But Cuckoo thinks that this is just an excuse to run away. Aori tells him that he is not going to run away, because his only goal in life is to get revenge for his sister. The next day, it is time for his final test, and everyone from the school has assembled to watch it. The teachers who hate Aori for his abilities are sure that he will fail, and they will dispose of him. And they start the test with a mean smirk on their face. Aori begins defeating the artificial spirits quickly with his flame sword. But he still can't control its power and drops to 30% battery even before he has defeated 30 of the spirits. His classmates cheer on him to do his best, but then something inside Cuckoo snaps and he starts dissing Aori. He calls him a piece of shit ragebaiter who is all talk and no show. His classmates turn against him and ask what the hell is he doing. But Cuckoo continues to ragebait a professional ragebaiter with a smug smile on his face. Soon, the people who hate Aori also join the bandwagon and start cursing him loudly. They tell him to hurry up and fail already. But Aori keeps defeating the artificial spirits while enduring their insults. All this reminds him of the time he first started making ragebait content, and the negative comments he got scared him to death. He thought about giving up. But whenever he saw his sister coughing blood, he realized that nothing could scare him more than that. He was ready to do anything to earn enough money to treat her. And in that moment, he began seeing his haters as the people who are helping him earn money through their hate. That moment helped him control his emotions, and Aori is able to use the same feeling to channel his power properly. His flame sword becomes smaller and sharper, and he manages to defeat 100 practice dummies without passing out. No one can believe their eyes when they see this, but Zaki realizes the brilliance of Cuckoo's plan. Cuckoo deliberately turned the crowd against Aori, letting him get into the correct headspace as a ragebaiter, and that is how he was able to control his power. However, the dude with long hair who hates Aori the most can't stomach this result, and he activates the machine again, summoning up the most powerful version of the test dummies. Coincidentally, Aori was also not satisfied by clearing the tests, and he lets out his wild side by demolishing the strong spirits as well. He eventually defeats 161 spirits, and then the machine runs out of power. Everyone is surprised because Aori just broke the record for the most spirits defeated in a test, and Zaki praises himself for pairing Aori with Cuckoo. The next day, Aori officially starts school, and he is shocked to realize that they have to study normie subjects too. Once the class finishes, Ren tells him to feel free to ask for help if he ever feels stuck, and he immediately proceeds to take a selfie. Hajime comes there for the next selfie and asks the blonde dude Emo to join them as well. While Emo explains that he is camera shy, Aori begins wondering what abilities each of them have. Hajime says that she is glad he didn't get tortured, and he says that it is all thanks to Cuckoo. He turns around to thank him properly, but Cuckoo is pissed after seeing Aori go berserk yesterday. He accuses him of being another ragebaiter who thrives when people are angry at him. Aori says that it is not like that, but then the goth Yuru tells both of them to shut up. She says that anyone with offensive abilities has a terrible personality, and that includes Cuckoo too. Cuckoo is offended that Yuru put him and Aori in the same category. He tells her to take it back, and they start telling each other to piss off. Just then, Zaki comes there to tell them that he has got a mission for them, and he is going to let Aori pop his cherry with this one. He then wonders who to send along with him because exorcism is all about teamwork. And as soon as he sees Cuckoo and Yuru still bickering with each other, he gets an idea to put them on the same team. That very night, Aori, Cuckoo, and Yuru are sent on the mission in a van where they soon arrive at a camera studio or something. They wonder why the hell they are there, when suddenly a blonde man sneaks up on them with a really hot secretary and starts talking. He tells Aori that this is where they will have to start working and asks whether he knows anything about these tech hubs. Aori is confused and asks who the hell is he. That's when the blondie reveals that he is none other than Zaki himself in a disguise, since he sticks out too much in his monk clothes. He then was about to start explaining the mission to them, when suddenly a group of 3 young women approach Zaki and start calling him handsome and tall. Zaki is a little surprised and overwhelmed as they start asking his number and offer to go on a dinner date. Zaki tries to mumble that he is a monk who has sworn off the materialistic things on earth. But some materialistic things can never change as he observes the big juicy personalities of the girls and melts while the girls manage to take him off for dinner and some cardio later. Aori thinks about how some people are dying of thirst while others are drowning in a river from the Himalayas. The hot secretary named Kiko that arrived with Zaki realizes that she will have to deal with everything now and tells the students to listen very carefully. She claims that they started picking up signals of spirits about an hour ago from the pig camera building where one customer was badly injured. She claims that they might be dealing with a group of ghost accounts here. This confuses Aori, and he asks whether the dead accounts swarm like bees or something. But Cuckoo tells him that ghost accounts are digital beings, which means that they need to recharge periodically, otherwise they will cease to exist. That's why electronic stores inevitably become the hotspots of paranormal activity. Before Aori could even process all that information, Yuru speaks up and angrily demands once again to know the reason why she was put in the same team with these 2 losers, claiming that it feels like a personal attack on her. Cuckoo doesn't really care about her remarks, but Aori tries to defend himself, claiming that Cuckoo is a weirdo, but he himself is as normal as they come and is nothing like Cuckoo. Yuru tells him to shut up as normal guys don't laugh when they are going berserk. She then starts looking at her phone, realizing that her favorite streamer is going to start streaming soon, and if she doesn't send him loads of super chat, he will end up forgetting her. Aori is confused at this behavior as she should care more about the mission rather than her streamer. Yuru tells him to shut his bunghole as she never even wanted to be an exorcist in the first place. But Kiko cuts her out, telling them all to focus on the mission. She tells them that their mission will be to get rid of all the spirits inside the building and informs them that they have already removed all the customers and employees, so that shouldn't be a problem. Moreover, according to their data, only low-level accounts are inside the building right now, so they shouldn't have any issues dealing with them, but tells them to stay alert and watch their backs at all times. Soon they enter the storefront, which is completely deserted. Aori feels weird as he has never seen an electronics store so empty. But Yuru tells him to keep up as she would like to end this farce as soon as possible and go back home. Aori feels a little jumpy and nervous, so he tells Yuru to be more careful and less nonchalant. But before he could complete his sentence, a ghost appears behind Yuru and tries to touch her. Aori's voice gets stuck in his throat out of panic, but Yuru doesn't even skip a beat and easily sidesteps the attack before taking her phone out and activates her special ability, which changes her hand into a weird, scary-looking gun. She immediately uses it to shoot a gooey thing at the spirit, which gets caught in the gummy substance and gets stuck in place. Aori is impressed to see such a weird ability, but Cuckoo tells him to not get too close to her as she is a certified stalker. He claims that she is a fangirl of some K-pop band group and is in a parasocial relationship with one of the members. He claims that she follows him at every single place, likes all of his pictures, zooms in on them to find every minor detail, which gives her an idea about where that person is, and she even checks the reflections in his eye to make sure that there is no woman around him. She also has countless accounts that she made in order to bypass the ID bans she kept getting for being creepy. Cuckoo tells him not to get too friendly with her as she is a delusional, extra clingy piece of shit. Yuru hears all this and tells them not to call the guy she loves just a K-pop member. She claims that his name is Kirihiro, and she is not a stalker in a parasocial relationship. Her love is the purest form of love there is, and no one can come in between them. With that, the spirit she captured explodes and the goo returns back to her. Cuckoo claims that case in point, Yuru is a weirdo and the abilities and skills of an exorcist depends heavily upon the way they use their phone as well. This suddenly makes him realize that the reason why he has fire abilities is because he is a rage baiter who used most of his time and phone to make people angry at him. Before he could properly understand the concept though, Yuru turns towards him and shoots her goo at him. He is shocked and unable to move, but it turns out that there was a spirit behind him which Yuru stopped. And without a single word, Cuckoo also jumps in with his hammer, destroying that ghost, after which they stand back to back, ready to face the ghosts. Aori is shocked as just moments ago both Cuckoo and Yuru were at each other's throats, but suddenly they are moving with such synergy that it looks like they are the best of friends. The moment he sees them destroying a bunch of ghosts makes him realize that these two must have done the same thing thousands of times. And after working together as a team for so long, they don't have to think about the other person's movements or position anymore. That's when he realizes why teamwork is so important in this profession. Suddenly, a ghost appears behind Yuru and Cuckoo, so without hesitation, Aori jumps in between them, missing them by inches and grabs his flame, destroying the spirit in an instant. He turns around to them smiling, claiming that he knows what teamwork is. But instead of getting praised, they tell him to be more careful as he could have easily killed them with his ability. While they were bickering about that, a couple of thieves seem to have broken into the store and are quickly stealing everything they can, thinking that they have hit it big since there is not a single soul in the store right now. But while they were busy putting everything they can into a bag, one of the bald thief gets yeeted by a ghost, and when the other thief looks up, he is horrified to see a giant ghost who has the baldy in its long nailed hand. Back in the other part of the store, Yuru complains about how she never wanted to be an exorcist, since she is a lover not a fighter. But she had no choice, as this was the only thing that she was good at. Moreover, she also needs money to support her weird dedication of sending a bunch of super chats to her favorite streamer, which leaves her no choice but to take up these dangerous jobs no matter how lame they are. She continues to use her goo gun to stop and bind every single ghost in her way, while Cuckoo uses his hammer to destroy them one by one. As he screams at Aori to stop yapping and get to work, Yuru starts getting mad at Cuckoo once again, claiming that she is not compatible with any of the attack-type exorcist, and amongst them she finds Cuckoo especially annoying. Even while they were arguing, they don't miss a single beat and destroy another ghost with ease. That's when Yuru turns towards Aori, and tells him that even though Cuckoo is a piece of shit, his abilities are top-notch as an attack-type exorcist, which means that they don't need any more of them in the class, especially a blue flame-wielding one. Soon enough, they reach the final floor of the building where they immediately find the two thieves dead, hanging from the ceiling. Aori is shocked, but Yuru soon spots the spirit and attacks her with her goo while Cuckoo runs at it and smacks it with his hammer. To their surprise though, the spirit doesn't even get a scratch and turns around before telling them to piss off as she was just decorating a doll she had. Cuckoo immediately realizes that something is wrong, and this is not a normal spirit. He realizes that they were only expecting low-level spirits and are not ready for a spirit of this grade, so he tells Yuru to back off, claiming that they need to leave immediately, but Yuru refuses, thinking that she has already captured the spirit, so it's only a matter of time till they exorcise it. But she completely underestimated the strength of the enemy, as the spirit easily breaks through the goo and manages to snatch Yuru from the ground, bringing her close to its face, claiming that she is going to make Yuru beautiful as well. Cuckoo immediately rushes at it with his hammer and strikes the spirit with all his might. But the spirit immediately heals and smacks Cuckoo away in an instant. When the dust clears, Aori finds Cuckoo lying on a teddy bear. He immediately asks what the hell is happening and why this ghost is so strong. Cuckoo tells him that some of the ghost accounts can have special abilities known as curses. This ghost account seems to be a curse one, which doesn't come under the category of a low-level spirit. He claims that this spirit is definitely either a mid or a high-level ghost account, and usually they would for a special team and formulate a plan before sending the team to finish the account. But right now they have nothing, and if it keeps going on like this, very soon all three of them would be dead. Aori turns his gaze towards the struggling Yuru, who gets her arms snapped like a twig, and her screams die out when the ghost slams her into the ground, knocking her out. Cuckoo tells Aori to run as he will only be a distraction at this point. The ghost starts squeezing Yuru's head in, so Cuckoo uses his hammer attack to try and stop it. But her regeneration power is too high and it doesn't affect her. Just then, Aori throws a teddy bear covered with demon flames and hits the ghost in the arm, causing her to drop Yuru. Cuckoo catches her and they all immediately start running away. They quickly hide on the lower floors when Cuckoo notices something and grabs Aori's arm, which was still burning with the demon flame. Aori gets horrified as he has seen what it does to the living people, but nothing happens to Cuckoo. He claims that if his theory is correct, the effects of the demon flame have been reversed since a human is wielding it, making it completely harmless to humans while fatal to the demons. He points at the giant ghost whose hand still hasn't healed from Aori's attack. They formulate a plan where Aori attacks the ghost from behind, causing an open wound that doesn't regenerate, and Cuckoo follows it up by spamming his hammer at it, causing a ton of damage. Angry, the ghost becomes a Beyblade, flinging Aori into the wall. The ghost soon corners them, but instead of feeling scared, Aori feels adrenaline building up in him, and he starts getting excited for the fight. He flings another fiery teddy at the ghost, but it dodges and grabs Aori out of position. She would have finished him then and there if not for Yuru, who gets up and shoots her goo at the ghost. Angry that her stream is already started, she tells the others to finish it off quickly as she has a streak of being the first super chat to Kuraha. Aori and Cuckoo immediately get to work, smacking the hell out of the ghost account who tries to break free of the goo. But just then Kuraha gets a super chat from some other girl. This pisses Yuru off and her grip tightens around the ghost's body. They quickly start attacking the spirit from all angles and finally land a killing blow, exorcising the spirit for good. They all feel relieved as none of them has ever defeated a mid-ranked spirit before, and Cuckoo claims that they need to head back and report everything as soon as possible. While they were leaving though, suddenly Aori senses something behind him. But before he could even turn around, Yuru and Cuckoo both start crying bloody tears and drop to the floor unmoving as from one of the TV sets nearby the spirit of the sad boy account appears, ready to face off with another demon flame user. Aori's breath catches in his lungs as he looks at the demon with disbelief as the memories of his sister dying on her bed, begging for help flashes in his mind. He starts panting like a wild beast and soon completely loses control over himself, and takes out his flaming blade before rushing at the spirit and tries to punch it. The sad boy doesn't even flinch and stands his ground, while Aori starts punching him from every single angle he can find, but the bright flame burning around the spirit blocks all the attacks completely, forcing Aori to back off and rethink his strategy. The sad boy looks at Aori and sighs sadly before asking whether that's the best he can pull up with. Aori is shocked as he gave his best shot right now. But before he could say anything, his eyes burst with blood as his vision reddens and he falls to the ground. He is left dazed and wonders what the hell just happened to him. How did Sad Boy already know his name, and why the hell did he show up here for absolutely no reason? Through sheer will and tenacity, Aori continues to move, as he struggles to reach his phone and tells Sad Boy that he will avenge his little sister Akari no matter what. The sad boy seems to recognize that name and tells her that her death in the hospital was indeed sad, as all his efforts went to vain when he was forced to kill her off. So maybe it was Akari who died in vain and nothing can be done about it. This hit Aori's nerve as he remembers how her sister used to laugh and play around, and he forces his own body to move. But all he could do is look up straight in the ghost's eye as he tells the sad boy that he will kill him no matter what. Sad Boy simply laughs, and even Aori knows that he is too weak to do anything, and all he is doing is spouting a bunch of shit which he can't follow through because of his own weakness. Sad Boy raises his hands, and immediately his entire arm gets enveloped in flames as he tells Aori to say goodbye to the world, but promises that there is a small chance that he might return back to this world in the form of a ghost if he has any unfinished business. Aori realizes that there is nothing he could do at this point and closes his eyes, apologizing to Akari and accepting his own death. But when Sad Boy uses his flames to try and finish him off, an extremely strong gust of wind blocks the flames and nullifies them. Aori is shocked as the building is closed, so where the hell did this wind come from? But he isn't left confused for long when Zaki reveals himself, dropping his blonde wig and coming face to face with Sad Boy. The spirit smiles and asks who the hell is he, and Zaki responds that he is an exorcist and Aori's teacher. Before the spirit could even react, Zaki gets all three of his students away from immediate danger, which surprises even the sad boy, who realizes that Zaki doesn't seem like a weakling like the other three kids. Aori starts getting worried about Cuckoo and Yuru, but Zaki tells him not to worry too much as they are not dead, and their powers protected them for now. Aori continues calling out to them, and soon Cuckoo opens his eyes, claiming that he has got a terrible headache, while even Yuru opens her eyes, trying to remember what the hell just happened. Zaki starts crying, apologizing to his students, claiming that he didn't want to leave them alone, but the women would not let him go and wanted to take him on a wild ride. He had to quickly fix them, and then he immediately ran to them. Aori tells Zaki to forget about all that as this might not be the right time. Before he could even warn the others, Sad Boy sends another volley of flames directly at them. But none of them ever reach the group, as an invisible pseudo-barrier protects them from all sides. Aori has never seen anything like that before and asks what the hell is happening. Cuckoo tries to explain that this shield is a special device created by the lab which keeps out all the electromagnetic waves for 3 minutes. But it can break if a physical entity walks inside of it. Akari's thick skull can't comprehend all of this so quickly, but Zaki explains to him in a manner even a feminist with Down syndrome would understand. He tells them that the barrier keeps out all the ghosts and their attacks for 3 minutes, after which they will be on their own. He tells them to hang tight, while he himself gets up and praises Aori for doing a good job. Aori is confused as he didn't even do anything, but Zaki claims that even surviving against the Sad Boy with sheer will was a feat in itself, and for that, he should keep his head held high. Aori struggles to keep back his tears as the positive words from the teacher touch his soul. Zaki tells them all to stay back as he takes out his fan and creates a magical carp in the air, ready to face off against one of the most dangerous ghosts in history. Without wasting a single minute, Zaki attacks him with his magical fish, and manages to land a good strike which pushes the ghost into the stands as it falls down. He continues to push his attack and hits the spirit once again. But this time Sad Boy was ready and manages to block the attack. He smiles, claiming that if he is Aori's teacher, that means that his death would end up creating a really strong connection of Aori to the world, and he would be reborn as a spirit. Immediately the ghost starts showering Zaki with his magical flame, while he dodges and sidesteps the attacks one after the other before launching a counter of his own. Aori realizes that Zaki is on a completely different level than them. He asks Cuckoo what kind of cyberkinesis is Zaki using, and Cuckoo replies that Zaki is not using any cyberkinesis as he doesn't have any. He is simply channeling his raw spiritual powers into magic with the help of a digital converter, and the fan is the main mechanism for him to be able to do that. He claims that Zaki is one of the older generation exorcists who were never taught how to deal with the digital ghosts of this era, and that's why new generations of ghost hunters are needed whose powers are native to the digital world, so that they can better handle these spirits when they inevitably attack mankind. Zaki's eyes start bleeding, which worries Aori, but Cuckoo tells him not to worry. He claims that Zaki is much stronger than this, and if Sad Boy was a real ghost and not a digital one, Zaki could have erased him from existence within minutes. But when these analog old-gen exorcists channel their spiritual powers through a digital converter, the magnitude of their power decreased by 90%, which means that Zaki is technically only fighting with 10% of his true abilities. Aori anxiously watches Zaki get cornered by Sad Boy, but just when he thought all was lost, Zaki simply smiled and created 2 more fishes from his magic and attacked Sad Boy with all 3 of them simultaneously. Aori is shocked, but Cuckoo continues his exposition dump, claiming that Zaki is a genius exorcist and he distinguished himself at the age of 18 itself, when he defeated a Calamity-class demon, which earned him the cringe title of the Living Legend. Aori is shocked that he was being schooled by an actual legend, and asks why the hell would the strongest exorcist become a teacher. Cuckoo replies that no one knows, but one day Zaki decided to take retirement from active duty and fall back into the leadership role and train the new generation of exorcists to deal with these demons of today. Aori seems impressed, but at the same time worried. But Cuckoo tells him not to fret as he doesn't think that there is any chances of Sad Boy winning against the greatest exorcist in the world. Just then, Zaki showcased a beautiful triple attack which forced the spirit back, and when the dust was settled, the Sad Boy was nowhere to be seen. Aori asks whether he destroyed the spirit, but Zaki replies that unfortunately it escaped, which means that they will have to be extra careful from now on. They all sit down with relief that this nightmare was over, while Zaki tells them that the Sad Boy was not fighting with all his strength as his charge was getting over. So basically he was fighting in power saver mode. Cuckoo gets irritated as he realizes that they basically lost an incredible opportunity to exorcise the ghost. But Zaki tells them not to think too much about that, as the most important thing was that all of them came out of it safe. He hugs them all, which gives Aori a new perspective of his own weakness, and he turns towards Zaki, claiming that he has a new goal in life now, and he wants to become exactly like Zaki. Zaki laughs at that, and tells them that they should all return to the school and get some rest as well to recover so that they can train even harder. They all soon return back to the academy. And while Zaki was called into a meeting, Aori and Cuckoo get a change of clothes and head into the nurse's office, where they find Yuru completely patched up and brand new. Aori doesn't understand how all her injuries could disappear so quickly. When the nurse named Mina emerges from behind a door and tells him not to worry about his injuries, she clicks a picture of him in her phone and uses her ability to literally Photoshop him back to health. Soon the rest of their classmates also enter the office, but Aori, Cuckoo, and Yuru are not really in the mood to have any fun. They have a determined look on their faces as they tell their classmates that they are heading off to train as they don't want to get humiliated so badly again. Before they could leave though, Mina tells them to have a look at their batteries, and they soon realize that they are basically out of spiritual energy. It doesn't really matter to them though, as if they can't train their spiritual powers, then they will train their muscles and gain efficiency in any way possible so one day they can take revenge and kill the sad boy once and for all. A couple days pass by since that incident, and after recovering back to full strength, Aori realizes that he is not able to use his cyberkinesis to its fullest potential and goes to meet with Cuckoo and Ren. He finds them sitting on a table having some tea, but Cuckoo seems to be busy with something. Ren greets Aori warmly and asks what he is doing so early in the morning. Aori replies that he hasn't been able to sleep very well, since he realized how unfit his body actually is. Ren is a little confused, but Aori claims that during the last fight against Sad Boy and that other ghost account, he realized that his cyberkinesis was working amazingly, and he was able to think and react to things faster than he normally would. But his body was constantly holding back. There was always a disconnect between his brain and his body, where his body would react late and it would get him caught out in the open. He thinks that if he trains his hand-to-hand combat skills even more and work on conditioning his body, he can wield his abilities much better and will be able to deal with the ghost accounts much more easily. With that, he turns towards Cuckoo and bows down, requesting him to train him so he can learn how to use his skills better. But Cuckoo doesn't even acknowledge his presence and is busy furiously typing on his phone. Aori is a little confused, but Ren laughs and tells him to take a seat as this is Cuckoo's daily routine, where he goes through Twitter and Reddit and then fights with random people online about how Epstein didn't kill himself. Aori realizes that it's not a joke and Cuckoo is genuinely just a cringy keyboard warrior as he continues typing on his phone, before finally putting it down to have some tea. He tells Aori to sit down and have his tea, claiming that it calms down the nerves. Aori can't understand this man at all, and asks whether he was in a gang or something before since he also has a tattoo on his shoulder. Cuckoo chokes on his tea and tells him to shut up, as that is a very prejudiced and discriminatory way to think, and that he is profiling people if he does that. Ren, however, calls out his bullshit, telling Aori that he is correct in his assumption, and Cuckoo was in fact in a gang during the high school. He pulls out his phone and shows him a picture of the delinquent version of Cuckoo, which no doubt would have generated a lot of female fan following from the K-pop girls. Cuckoo tells him that it was just a phase and even Ren was in the same gang. Ren claims that he was just following him around, and tells Aori that he knows Cuckoo since childhood and they have kind of a bromance between them. Cuckoo claims that he doesn't swing that way, while Aori realizes that he basically doesn't know about any of his peers and tells Ren that he would like to know as much as possible about them. This surprises Ren as usually the rage baiters are very self-centered and assholes, but Aori doesn't seem to fall in the same category. Cuckoo asks him to tell him what he wanted from him, which Aori totally forgot about that, but instead of training him, Cuckoo sends him to look for Hage as she is the hand-to-hand combat specialist who can teach him the most. While looking for Hage, he comes across the creepy-looking doll sitting on the desk and starts talking to it, asking whether it can train him in combat, but Chucky here doesn't respond. He walks up to her and asks why is she giving him the cold shoulder when he looks around and realizes that he is surrounded by the dolls. He thinks that Chucky cloned herself, but the real one comes from behind smacking him on the head, claiming that these dolls are the official mascots of the school, and her cyberkinesis abilities lets her control these dolls, while her real body is in her dorm, sipping coffee and watching Boku no Pico in 4K. Aori doesn't judge people based on the things that they watch and asks Chucky to train him, and she immediately gets interested as she has been wanting to have a match with him ever since he came into the academy. They soon hit the training ground, where she makes Amo carry a huge doll inside and places it on the floor. She then tells Amo that he needs to be here as a referee for them, before starting the fight. At first, Aori laughs, claiming that he will have trouble hitting such an adorable-looking Chucky doll. But without any warnings, Chucky smacks him in the face before raining down a barrage of blows on him from multiple angles. Imo tells Aori not to take it too easily, as Hage is the Tekken champion and rules the esports scene. Aori realizes that he didn't think this doll would be a problem, which was his mistake. So he decides to finally start trying and takes out his blue flames from his phone. Hage decides that Chucky here is not enough to hurt someone properly, so she jumps from her location towards the bigger doll and transfers her consciousness into that one. Aori is surprised, but Hage reveals that she can take control of any doll at will and with Bluetooth mode activated, and since the little doll can't do much damage, she will use this doll to simulate an actual fight. Round 2 starts, and Aori realizes that this version is less cute, but it's also easier to hit, so he rushes at her with full speed to land some hits. But her reaction time is too quick, and she manages to score a 5-hit combo against him. Aori is confused, as it feels like she is reacting to his attacks before he even starts attacking. But for Hage, this is normal, as if you want to compete at a pro level in gaming. You need to have god-level reflexes and a bag of insults to throw at your opponent. Aori continues trying to brainlessly attack her, but no matter what he can't even land a single hit on her, and every single attack of his gets completely blocked, while she replies with one combo after the other, completely owning him with her moves. Imo laughs as the difference between their skills seem too much, but Aori is not done yet, and decides that if Hage is reading his rhythm, then he is going to throw her off by pulling some unconventional moves that she has never seen him do before. This time he does much better, as he manages to avoid all of Hage's attack by reading her rhythm, and even blocks one of the attacks. Hage tells him not to get too cocky just because he blocked a single attack, and tells him that she is going to show what else he is lacking. With that, she becomes Iron Man and uses a pink laser blast to completely knock Aori out. Hage celebrates, while Aori tries to get up on his feet and acknowledges that Hage is totally cool and asks whether she could become his teacher so he can learn how to fight. Sometime later he decides to head down to take a bath, wondering what the actual Hage looks like, and in his mind, he imagines a sweaty neck bearded Discord mod with nothing but some moisturizer and a bunch of tissues in his room. But while he was lost in his thoughts, he ends up bumping into Yuru and a pink-haired girl with huge glasses. He immediately tries to pick her up, when Yuru calls the pink-haired girl Hage and tells her to walk more carefully. It takes a while for Aori to connect the dots, and he realizes that this cute girl is actually the sweaty gamer that he made his master. He immediately tries to talk to her, but Hage runs away, only to come back as a doll and smacks Aori in the head, telling him to walk more carefully. He is shocked to see the complete 180 that she just pulled, but Yuru simply laughs, claiming that the real Hage and her gaming personas are two completely different things, and that she is a complete shut-in. Hage proudly claims that with energy drinks, a good PC with loads of RAM that she hoarded before the price surge and online shopping, she doesn't need anything more, and her room in itself is a sanctuary for her. Aori was going to ask about when can they fight again, when he gets a notification and checks it to see that Zaki has sent them a message about a strategy meeting to deal with Sad Boy, now known simply as K, and figure out how to destroy him. All the students of his class 1B immediately assemble at the room, where Zaki and Kiko start explaining that they are deciding on an all-out war against K and to exercise him no matter what. He claims that there have been 2 previous missions to deal with K, but both of them failed, and most of the students who participated in the hunt ended up dead, because K pulled a new move which none of them were expecting. He claims that this time they are going to attack in number, and no matter the cost they will deal with him. Aori gets all fired up, claiming that this time K will pay for all that he has done, but Zaki simply laughs, claiming that they are not going to be a part of this hunting party. Aori is shocked, while Imo explains that the first-year students are not allowed to get involved in fights against high-level or the extreme-level ghost accounts like the Sad Boy K account. Zaki claims that they are not even allowed to deal with mid-level spirits on their own and must have a senior with them in such cases. Aori is beyond frustrated and claims that he is not going to let his chance for revenge slip by, and he doesn't care even if they expel him, but he is going to take part in the hunt one way or another. Cuckoo suddenly remembers that there is an exception to that rule, as if there is a student whose cyberkinesis abilities are very important for the mission they can fight, or if a student proves himself in front of others sufficiently enough that they all acknowledge his strength. Aori immediately asks how the hell can he prove himself. Zaki replies that there is a battle between Class A and B every term, and that competition is the main way to showcase their skills and strength. And since the hunt for Kei is going to start after 2 months, they still have time to prove themselves. Aori gets fired up and starts training like crazy from the very next day as he runs through the forest alongside Amo when suddenly one of the dummy monsters appear in front of him. Thankfully, Amo was quick enough and uses his cyberkinesis, which specializes in defense, to create a wall in front of them which blocks the attack. They soon start running through the forests once again, trying to lose the monster behind them, when Ren catches up to them and orders them to split near the big tree. He also tells Yuru and Kuku about the best positions they should be in, and soon enough, he has all of them in the exact position he wants them to be, with the 3 monsters captured and surrounded in between them. Aori is shocked by the amazing strategy that Ren was able to come up with on the fly, and Hage tells him that Ren is the brain of the class and his abilities are like having a CCTV camera, as he can see whatever is happening at all points, which makes him make the best decisions to turn the fight in their favor. Once the monsters were surrounded, they all make quick work of them, completely destroying them one by one. Zaki and Kiko emerge from the bushes, claiming that they all seem to be in much better form than they ever were, and Ren attributes it to the addition of Aori, as they now have another strong attacker in their team. Kuku mentions, though, that he is burning through his energy too quickly, and that his attacks are not efficient enough, which will cause him to get tired in the real fight. Aori takes all the advice to heart and goes out in the evening to train on his own, practicing his abilities and increasing his agility. But soon he realizes that he is at his limit. As he falls, though, another pink-haired student with weird-ass teeth grabs him and introduces himself as Suru. He pretends to feel for Aori while he tells him about his sister who was killed by Kei. But just when he thought he made a new friend, Suru starts burning the hairpin that was the last thing Aori had of his sister. Tears start falling of his eyes, while Suru starts laughing, revealing that even he is a rage baiter with flame-type ability. Suddenly, Hage intervenes with a kick, which pushes Suru away, but before they could do anything, Suru's entire class, the Class 1A, walks in. Hage claims that they should back off as these people are great jerks, but Aori can't let the disrespect go unanswered and leaps at Suru with his blue flames. But far before he could reach the bully, Aori is intercepted and put on the floor by one of the girls, while the swords of their class representative barely misses him thanks to the girl. Before he could even understand what was happening, the sword guy named Waga gets attacked by Kuku but manages to block it. Now both Class 1A and 1B are in a standoff against each other, while a nearly depleted Aori is still on the floor with the girl on her, wondering whether they are going to have an all-out brawl right here. The girl immediately gets up from the floor, letting Aori go, and apologizes to Kuku, claiming that it isn't what it looks like, since she has a big old crush on him, while Aori uses his abs to propel himself up, which stuns the Class A, who realize that Aori must work his core a lot, while one of their classmates takes out his shirt to show his shining set of abs, but no one cares about them. Aori pushes himself back with the help of a tree branch and launches towards the flame baiter Suru and stands face to face with him once again with eyes dark with anger, demanding an apology. Suru, however, seems to be having the time of his life, rage baiting another rage baiter, and starts running away laughing while Aori chases after him. Waga laughs, claiming that there is no telling what the rage baiter is going to do next, and they are very difficult to control. Kuku agrees with this statement, claiming that all rage baiters are pure pieces of shit, but piece of shit in Class B stinks less. The blue-haired guy named Ash looks at the two flame baiters face to face against each other, and wonders whether it will make a good film, while the green-haired empty-headed Kiri thinks about what he is going to have for dinner tonight. The guy trying to replicate the hairstyle of Tokyo Revengers named Iko is jealous about the fact that the girl Iru likes Kuku and not him. Iru, on the other hand, greets Yuru and asks how she has been, while Yuru replies that she doesn't talk to pick-me girls, and I have to give her respect for that. Yuru claims that Iru simply sucks up to every man she sees, but Iru slaps back, claiming that Yuru is the one who tries to get guys to fall for her by dressing up as a goth baddie. Meanwhile, Aori is still chasing Suru around and tries to land a hard punch, which Suru dodges, but the tree couldn't and gets dented by Aori's power. Suru is intrigued as he knows that one punch could have broken all his bones, but he is enjoying this and uses his own flame abilities and creates a fiery wall in front of them. Aori immediately backs off, noticing that Suru didn't use his phone to activate his abilities like everybody else, and his flame is very hot unlike his own. Suru notices that Aori is starting to use his brain again, so he tries to get him angry once again and starts shouting that Class B is made up of nothing but a bunch of losers. One of them is a guy who can only peep like a pervert, a studpit idiot who can do nothing but block attacks, and Annabelle's ugly-looking cousin. This pisses Aori off once again, as he doesn't understand how can someone be so uncaring about the feelings of other people, and to Suru's absolute surprise, Aori grabs his hand, which is still burning red hot with the flames. Suru can't believe that someone is holding his burning hand, and finds it super hot. But the homophobic Waga doesn't support LGHTV people and uses an aerial slash which cuts down every single tree in the area, and misses Aori's head by inches, slashing off a tuft of hair from the top. Suru tells them both to stop and apologizes on behalf of Suru, but at the end he laughs and claims that the entire Class B is total crap though. Cuckoo claims that it completely defeats the purpose of an apology, but Waga doesn't care and points his sword at Aori, claiming that Class B has disgraced themselves by getting a flame baiter in their group. He also claims that in the upcoming battle between A and B, they will destroy Class B completely and show everyone what a bunch of losers Class B is filled with. Cuckoo, however, speaks up confidently, coming in front of Aori, and tells Waga that he is mistaken, and will be defeated during the upcoming battle, thanks to the flame baiter in their team. Aori heads back to the nurse's office where he gets patched up real quick, and while returning back, he ends up running into Zaki, who praises him for the effort he has put in so far. Aori, however, is not done yet, and asks him about the technique that Suru was using, and how he can learn it as well. For the next couple of weeks, both teams give their all during the training sessions to make sure that they are in their top form when the time for battle arrives. And finally, the morning of the battle comes and the entire Class B gets stuffed in a bus and taken towards the arena for the Class A vs B battle. On the way, Yuru is completely relaxed talking about how Twitch will never unban Dr. Disrespect, while Emo is getting carsick. Kiko claims that she expected them to be a little more focused on the battle, while Emo tells her that he is being carsick because he is stressed out about the battle. Aori asks them whether the last battle took place on a mountain, and Emo gets pukish again just remembering their last fight during which they lost badly, and Emo wasn't able to do anything since Class A has too many people with offensive abilities. Aori straight up asks Emo why did he pick the sorcerer gig if he is so scared of everything. But before Emo could say anything, Haji jumps in between claiming that every one of them has their own reasons for joining this school and they should just leave it at that. Aori backs off at that, thinking that he hit a nerve, when he notices that Haji is also with them, but in a box using her phone to control the doll. She claims that using the doll consumes less energy and that's why she is doing that. Aori suddenly realizes though that they have taken a full circle and are back in the school once again. He asks whether the battle is cancelled, but Kiko simply smiles, claiming that this year the theme is going to be urban warfare, and their objective is going to be neutralizing or incapacitating the entire enemy team till they give up. Since Kochi the nurse is also here, it means that they can go all out and inflict real damage on each other. Killing, however, warrants an instant disqualification without a single thought. Once they get out of the bus, Kiko explains that they are not really in the school, as this entire area is a one-to-one copy of their school and the city, since one of the faculty members have a copy-paste ability. She then gets out a tablet and starts video conferencing since Zaki wanted to have a conversation with his class before the fight. He was watching some 4K pornkimen, but he quickly wears his clothes and tells his students that they have to do their best, as the eyes of the entire school, including their seniors and all the teachers, is on them. This is extra important since apart from being a place to shine, this time they might also pick potential people to go on the mission to deal with Sad Boy K. Cuckoo tells Zaki that they won't disgrace him this time, but Zaki simply laughs, claiming that he wouldn't mind if they lost since he cares about them and wouldn't want anything to happen to any of them. But if they go on the extreme mission to exorcise K, many of them won't come back. The Class A is also getting a pep talk, but Waga is very confident about their abilities, since he knows that every one of them is stronger than everyone in Class B, which means that the best way to win this would be to get into one-on-one battles and deal with their enemies real quick before helping the others to get an advantage and win this as quickly as possible. Class B gets ready and take their positions and get their weapons out, while Emo tries to keep his head in the game so he doesn't get psyched out early in the match. Ren thanks Aori for getting mad on their behalf when Class A disrespected them that day, and asks whether he knows why they didn't return the favor. Before Aori could reply though, Cuckoo creates a huge hammer and claims that they didn't say anything because they were reserving all the trash talk and insults for today. The buzzer sounds and Cuckoo decides to start the match with a bang, as he creates a bunch of smaller hammers from his giant hammer and tries to kill the Class A students. Waga simply smiles and was going to deal with it, But Ash takes out his phone and creates a huge ice model of himself with wings, which moves the artist within him. The statue blocks the attack. But during the process, this idiot ends up using 50% of his total battery. Cuckoo and the others watch from afar, when suddenly they realize that an aerial slash is coming towards them. They immediately cover Amo's ears so he could concentrate, and he creates a barrier around them to save them from the slice. Cuckoo tells Aori that Waga is the strongest member of Class A and has a special ability with which he can target anyone with an aerial slash. He has also been on multiple high-rank missions and taken on mid-level ghost accounts all on his own. He warns his entire team to flee if they encounter this prodigy in a one-on-one battle. The enemy team splits up and start looking for Class A, but they can't find anyone. Waga, however, is lucky as he ends up finding Haji in a group of cardboard cartons hiding in a shop. He slashes one of them, forcing her to slowly tumble through the streets, while he slashes her cardboard open, thinking that he already got one of them, when he is surprised to see that it's just a doll, not the real her. Haji laughs from her true hiding place, knowing that they have Waga exactly where they wanted him to be. It turns out that Cuckoo knew what Waga would plan and decided to lure him out before attacking him with a synchronized hit. Waga realizes that he has been bamboozled as Cuckoo and Yuru all appear out of nowhere. Yuru uses her gum to bind his legs, while Cuckoo tries to attack him. Waga blocks the hammer, while blocking Aori's punch at the same time, even sidestepping Yuru's gummy shots, claiming that instead of teamwork this looks more like dogpiling to him. He claims that this is the strategy of weaklings as he effortlessly dodges their attacks and gets ready to slap back. But Mo blocks his attack, while Cuckoo uses his 1000 hammer attack once again, but just as a distraction as it gives Yuru the opening to hitting Waga and binding his hands with her slime. Waga realizes that he just messed up when Aori appears and lands a strong kick to his face. They wrap him up in a bunch of goo while he stays there unmoving, and Class A think that they finally dealt with him. To their surprise, Waga just got depressed that Class B managed to land a hit on him, which turns to anger as he uses his sword to cut through the goo like an expert before taking out his sword and delivering a slash strong enough to kill the entire Class B if not for the defensive wall of Mo. Haji's doll still ends up getting decapitated, while the entire house behind them is destroyed by the slash. Waga tries to take deep breaths and calms himself down, knowing that he will get disqualified if he kills any of them, and promises to only cut off their limbs. Aori doesn't really get the gravity of the situation and claims that it doesn't matter since they have Mo on their side. But he soon realizes that the wall is gone as Mo is too scared to think straight while a literal Terminator is standing in front of them. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.